You talked about this going back and forth with Bob at the end of Time Out of Mind, and he had a cassette that he really loved the sound on and wanted you to sort of match. And at one point, you kind of talked about taking that cassette and using it in the process. Can you kind of clarify what that was? Was the master from something that was a cassette, or you're trying to match the sound he heard and liked on the cassette?
Yeah, so like the cassette that I gave him of all the mixes, like Bob had came back to the teatro and we went through all the songs, and I mixed some, and some I couldn't better the mixes of, like Lovesick, and that was just from playback in Miami. And so what it was is I was making them these really hot cassettes on a Maxell XL2S, and that was the tape of the time. That was like the the best sounding cassette. And so I had these Tascam cassette decks, and so I would print with the needles just buried and to make them really loud and exciting. And so when we went to master the record, we mastered it, and brought him a CD, and he would put the CD in, and then listen to the CD, but then he would listen to the cassette, and the cassettes just sounded more exciting and like more alive. And so I was going back and forth between the mastering, and so finally, we ran it through a lathe like a for vinyl and tried to capture like tube sound, and we couldn't get anything close to this cassette. And so I just, at the end, I just threw up my arms and I brought the cassette deck in, and we mastered through that cassette deck. And that's the sound of Time Out of Mind's mastering. So,
So so explain that to me. When you say mastered to the cassette, you're saying the copy you burned to the cassette got then re-recorded
no,
to
no, no.
be.
The I made a sequence on a cassette for Bob to listen to of all the songs. So he had the full record on a cassette. And so to get that cassette sound on the CD, I had to run all the mixes through that cassette deck and then print it onto a CD. And
Oh,
so
so you're
it's
saying
the
the sound signal path went
yes,
through the cassette and back out.
that's correct. And so it was in record, but it was the only way I could get that sound. And so
That's amazing. So you're saying something in the electronics in that cassette was giving it a feel.
in the cassette player, the cassette
Player. I
player.
get it. Yeah, that's what I misunderstood. I thought you like went to tape and then came off. You just went through those electronics.
Yeah, I went through the electronics of the Tascam cassette deck with a cassette in there recording, and then just taking the output of that and printing that. And so,
That is
and
wild.
I never told him that. I just I just did that, and then went to his house, dropped off the CD with that new sound, and I get a call from him. Hey, Mark, that CD sounds great. Sounds great. It's like, and so I never told him any of the techniques that what happened, but he ended up liking it, and so that's the sound of that record.
That's wild. So you have all this expensive, Neve
Yeah,
control panels and all this stuff, and you
totally.
go through a $200 cassette deck.
Yeah. A lot of that was originally used, like, Joe Gass was the, mastering engineer, and, he all of his work that he did on the tracks was used, but we just the end result of that mastering went through the cassette deck to print onto the master, the glass CD master for making CDs and stuff. So, yeah.
Right.